Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most unique, entertaining, and compelling sports talk podcast you'll ever listen to.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Wendell's World in Sports with the one and only Wendell Wallace.
Giannis charging down the lane to the rim, double clutch, no good, tipped in. Giannis tipped it home.
Subscribe, rate, and review anywhere and everywhere you listen to this and all your favorite podcasts. And now, from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, Rip, Roaring, and ready to rumble, Wendell Wallace.
Wendell's World in Sports, speaking about what is happening in the world of sports. These are my favorite things, so I'm going to make it plain and talk to you like my man John Coltrane of the sax. Ain't no holding back, so we're going to be speaking about what's happening in the NBA. We're speaking about what's going on in the world of sports. Hello, bonjour, bonsoir, monsieur, mademoiselle. Je m'appelle Wendell Wallace, Wendell's World of Sports. So glad that you could be with us. Konnichiwa, good morning, good abend, shalom, wassalamu alaikum, namaste, konnichiwa, Wendell's World of Sports. Before I go ahead and get into what's happening, what I'm going to be speaking about in the world of sports, if you could do me a favor, first of all, special dedication for those who are watching this video on YouTube. I thank you so much. If you could just go ahead and subscribe to my channel, if you could just go ahead and like this video, if you so would be, I would very much appreciate it. And if you're listening to this video, if you're listening to this podcast, anywhere where you listen to your favorite podcast, whether it be Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, whatever, if you could just go ahead and you could just subscribe, follow, download, rate, review. Most importantly, though, enjoy the most unique, entertaining, thought-provoking sports talk podcast. I would very much appreciate it. So, all right, here we go. We're going to be playing the hits now. I'm going to be speaking about what is going down in the NBA. The finals is here. I should be speaking maybe a little bit about some National Hockey League stuff, man, because they have me hooked, man. They've got me going. This is the most hockey I've watched outside of the Washington Capitals when they won the Stanley Cup playoffs. But the Western Conference, man, I just finished watching, or I'm just still getting over the excitement of the game or the series between Edmonton and Calgary. That was fantastic. And now you got the Western Conference Finals between Edmonton and the Colorado Avalanche, two of the most exciting teams in the NHL. And Connor McDavid, they got me hooked there, man. Congratulations. The NHL finally has that guy that can say, you know what? I might not be a guy who's going to be watching a lot of hockey, but when this guy is out there skating around, and when this guy is out there doing the thing, I don't give a damn if it's the playoffs. I don't give a damn if it's the regular season. I don't give a damn. I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be interested in watching Connor McDavid. I'm going to be interested when the Edmonton Oilers play the Vancouver Canucks, and I dream about possibly living in the most beautiful city in North America, even though the prices are outrageous depending upon the 2024 elections here in this country. When I go ahead and watch the Edmonton Oilers play the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we see Connor McDavid going up against that kid from Toronto, who's exciting, and he's awesome. And I'm going to be contemplating whether I should stay in this country or move to Toronto or move to Calgary or move to Vancouver or move to, I'm not going to Montreal because I don't speak Francais. But, yeah, whenever Connor McDavid is playing, man, I am going to be watching, and I'm going to be watching with a lot more interest. So the NHL, congratulations on finding themselves that superstar. Austin Matthews, the great young player for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But, yeah, congratulations to the NHL for giving themselves a player, which, you got me hooked a little bit more on the sport. Got me hooked like a fish. And watching Connor McDavid play while living in Vancouver, that would be a nice little wish in 2025, 26, depending upon the 2024 elections here in this country. But getting back to my main deal, getting back to my wife, getting back to my Halle Berry, getting back to the love of my life outside of the Georgetown Hoyas, the NBA, speaking about the NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics, the Golden State Warriors. That's the NBA Finals. And first of all, I want to thank you so much. I mean, normally, my team, the Washington Wizards, being inconsequential, being irrelevant when you're speaking about teams vying for the championship, when you speak about teams that are serious about winning championships. So, outside of the Washington Wizards, my love for other teams competing in the NBA championships itself is really no big deal. I'm not one of these teams, or I'm not one of these guys where if my team doesn't do well, my second favorite team, I'm going to be rooting and cheering and having the highs and lows of emotions that comes with you rooting for your favorite team. I don't transfer that to another team just because my hometown team is irrelevant when it comes to those type of things. And I'm speaking about not just the Washington Wizards, but also the Nationals, also the Commanders, and also the Washington Capitals. But yeah, so it was a matter of, hey man, whether it was the Dallas Mavericks or the Golden State Warriors or the Memphis Grizzlies or the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Dallas Mavericks, whatever, man. All I want to do is find a team in the Western Conference that's going to make it to the NBA Finals that's deserving and is going to give me a lot of entertainment value, who plays a brand of basketball that I really enjoy. And it's the same thing with the Eastern Conference, whether it was the Brooklyn Nets or the Milwaukee Bucks or the Philadelphia 76ers or the Boston Celtics. It didn't matter. I just want to see two good teams with good contrasting styles and teams that earned and deserved the right to be there, play for the NBA championship. The one thing that I can really say, though, the one team I did not want to see under any circumstances whatsoever make it to the NBA Finals, regardless of who they were going to play, were the Miami Heat. No.
When he says I'm fine, I think he just feels more comfortable changing into a different pair of shoes.
And a tire change after one lap. Butler with some room service. And the Heat with their first field
How
goal.
bad and how horrible and how terrible and at times how godly unwatchable that was in their series against the Boston Celtics. Now, did Boston participate in that malaise with that level of play that was borderline unwatchable at times? Yes, but man, the majority of that went to the Miami Heat, and it just led to some bad basketball. It led to some bad basketball for the eyes. And all respect to Jimmy Butler for what he did, playing injured like he did, and then having the games that he did in Game 6, in Game 7, and much respect to Eric Spoelstra, one of the best coaches in the NBA, has been consistently one of the best coaches in the NBA for years, and Bam Adebayo. I mean, respect to all those guys, and respect for the professionalism and the effort and the intensity and the consistency of effort and caring that team gives to the NBA fan and to the paying customer to go watch them play, or for those who are taking time out of their busy schedules to watch the NBA, watch those guys play. I appreciate the fact that you care so much. As I mentioned before, the Miami Heat is going to give you the same effort that they showed in these playoffs like they did during the regular season, regardless of who they're playing, what the circumstances are, what night it is, how deep in the dog days that they are, how many back-to-backs or whatever. The Miami Heat is going to give you the same amount of intensity and privilege and courage and all those type of things to go ahead and play as hard as they can. But, man, it makes for sometimes some really bad basketball, especially when you speak about how depleted the Miami Heat were in the playoffs. Tyler Hero didn't play the last couple of games. Kyle Lowry was injured. We knew about Jimmy Butler and what he was dealing with his knee injury, and then everything goes on and on. And those are just the injury reports that we know about. I'm not quite sure Bam Adebayo and PJ Tucker, those guys were dealing with some type of itchy owies that made them far from being 100%, just like the Boston Celtics, just like the Dallas Mavericks, just like the Golden State Warriors, on and on and on. So I give the Heat credit and respect for how hard they play and how care they are in terms of their professionalism and giving their best. But, man, it makes for some bad basketball when you need to play the way that they did to try to win a NBA championship, by the way that they played to win a conference championship. That's some ugly stuff, man. That's some ugly stuff. And you have that type of ball in the NBA Finals against a team like the Golden State Warriors, and they're going to muck it up, and they're going to be physical, and they're going to dare the refs to call fouls because they're committing fouls on almost every play. every possession. It just makes for some bad basketball. It makes for some inefficient basketball. It makes for some inconsistent basketball. It makes for some bad refereeing because we have a situation now where in the first quarter the referees are calling it one way and then they need to tighten it up so they call it differently in the second quarter, and the inconsistency that goes with that. What's a foul in the first quarter might not be a foul in the fourth quarter, in the missed calls, and it's just the referees have a hard enough time on a consistent basis getting it right. But with the Miami Heat, okay, what's the foul? What's not the foul? What is the foul on the Miami Heat? What is the foul on the other team? What's not a foul on the Heat? What's not a foul with the other team? How much physicality can they have? What's a bumper? All this type of stuff the referees have to go through when you're playing the Miami Heat. It just makes for some bad basketball when you have professional floppers, when you have a professional flopper like Kyle Lowry who's doing everything that he can to try to deduce and trick the referees into making a call by him flopping all over the place and pretending that on every little bump is like he just got shot by a shotgun to the stomach or to the abdomen. It just makes it for bad basketball. So on that regard, I am glad that we'll have a series in Boston and Golden State, which should be aesthetically pleasing for those who are not just basketball fans, but maybe for those who might watch the NBA only during the NBA Finals. Game 7 this past Monday, the Celtics won the Eastern Conference Championship over Miami 100-96. Eastern Conference Finals MVP Jason Tatum led the way with 26 points. First ever Larry Bird trophy award went to him as the Eastern Conference's MVP. Tatum, he deserved it. When you're speaking about the totality of the Eastern Conference playoff series, averaging 25 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists in this series, but you take a look at his Game 6 performance against the Milwaukee Bucks, you take a look at the way that he outplayed Kevin Durant in the first round of the NBA playoffs, and you speak about the impact that he had on this series and the win against the Celtics. For the Celtics, he was very deserving of the award. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, he scored 24 for Boston. But Boston did things the hard way to try to get to finally win this series. If you're thinking about Game 7, now this was a series where the team that usually jumped out to the big lead normally was not a big deal. Was a team that's going to win the game. When you speak about, in Game 7, first quarter, Boston was up by 15, 32-17, jumped out to a 27 lead. Miami took about 4 minutes before they hit their first field goal getting into the game. Then Miami, scoring 17 points on 25 possessions, going 1 of 6 from the three-point line, 8 of 21 from the field. Second quarter started to pick things up. Jimmy Butler started putting the heat on his back, getting to the baskets, really using anybody that was guarding him, whether it be Derek White, whether it was going to be Marcus Smart, coming off pick and rolls, Al Horford not really being a deterrent for Butler in that second quarter. Miami started getting points by going to the line, Boston fouling a lot, and, even with all of those things that were going on, it was a situation where you could look back, if Miami would have won this game, you could have looked back at 2 instances, of course, and we'll go over this very quickly, the 13-point lead with 3.5 minutes to go in the game. If Boston would have lost that game because all of a sudden Marcus Smart turned into John Starks Game 6, New York versus Houston in the NBA Finals in 94. But even before then, if you want to be taking a look at the foundation or the first clues that the Celtics missed a golden opportunity to put the game away, so the fact that they would have lost this 13-point lead with 3.5 minutes left to go in the game and such, that would have been a moot point. You could look back at the end of the second quarter. In the second quarter, Boston had to lead anywhere between 17 and 11 points throughout the second quarter. Then the 2 minutes and 12 seconds, somewhere around there, Jason Tatum turnover, Max Strus hit a three-pointer, Jimmy Butler hit a three-pointer off of a bad three-point possession shot by Jason Tatum, making the score 53-44. Then, as I mentioned before, the Celtics started fouling. They sent the Heat to the free throw line. Bam Adebayo goes 1 out of 2. Then Kyle Lowry gets 2 cheap bullshit calls, flopping calls. He goes 5 or 6 from the line combined with Bam Adebayo. And all of a sudden, the Heat, who were grossly outplayed, the only one doing anything for the Heat was Jimmy Butler, as he scored 24 in that half. And all of a sudden, the Celtics look up at a game that they were absolutely dominating because of a poor finish to the second quarter, and all of a sudden it's 55-49. So all the momentum and all the hope was with the Miami Heat. It was almost a situation where, yeah, the Heat were behind by 6. Yeah, the Heat were very limited in what they could do to score and put points together, but it just seemed like the momentum going into the third quarter at that time was with the Miami Heat because of how badly they were outplayed, but yet and still they found themselves within shouting distance of taking the lead and also having that home court advantage again. Jimmy Butler, 15 points in the second quarter, 24 at half, 8 to 12 shooting on a bad leg, and as I mentioned before, not having anybody on the Celtics being able to match up with them, especially off of that pick and roll that Miami was executing with Jimmy Butler. Third quarter, Miami cut the lead to 58-54 early in the third. Then Tatum and Smart made baskets to put the lead back to 13, 65-52. So that first little push by Miami was thwarted. It was like, oh, okay, there we go. And they really maintained that 13-point lead. Maybe cut it down to 7 at times. Miami did, but mainly it was anywhere between 7 and 13 points for the rest of the quarter. And going into the fourth, if you're a Boston Celtics fan, man, let me know. It was 72-65, and you felt comfortable, but it was a situation where you knew that the Miami Heat weren't going to go away. And after watching this series, especially at this point, you knew that Boston wasn't going to be able to put them away. As much as Boston had the firepower to do so, you still had Jimmy Butler, who was unstoppable, and you still had the situation where this was the Miami Heat. So yeah, 72-65 at that time going into the fourth. You still felt a little uneasy if you were the Celtics. Again, even though you're speaking about a Miami Heat team that was not, didn't have the weapons or didn't have the weaponry to make a big, huge push. But in the fourth quarter, again, Boston looked like it was in control for most of the quarter. Yeah, Miami cut the lead to 3 as 82-79 early in the fourth quarter on baskets, a lob to Adebayo, and then Butler again. But again, Tatum, wearing the Kobe Bryant 24 armband, responded with clutch scoring, good passing, getting Smart open, making the score 90-79 with 6:36 left. And you started feeling like, a little bit like, all right, maybe something. But if you're a Boston Celtics fan, if you were a fan like I was and say in terms of, man, I do not want to see the Miami Heat play anymore. You know they are the Rasputin of the NBA in these regards. You know that they weren't finished. You know that they had one more run in them. It was going to be a question of were they going to be able to sustain the force of Jimmy Butler and hold him back long enough to go ahead and pull out this game. If you're wondering, with about 6.5 minutes to go, if the score is 90-79, I mean, this is a situation where it's almost like, man, if we could just get to 100 points, if we could just score 5 more buckets, if we could just get 2 more threes and 2 more twos, or we could just get some type of combination to make it, to get us to 100. In 6:36, even with the Miami Heat, they're going to be able to score 21 plus points to tie it or even take the lead if this is a situation. It's almost like you're not at the point now where you start playing the clock. 6:36, too long. Way, way, way too long. But there's also a situation where you start looking at, okay, let's not look backwards in terms of what the Miami Heat are doing with 79. Let's look forward to see how many points we need to have and also concentrate on our defense, which throughout the playoffs for the Celtics have been, stout. But it's like, man, if we could just get to 100, we've got this game. Because with our defense, we don't think that the Heat are going to be scoring that many points, even if Butler goes nuts, even if someone else, comes in, because outside of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, nobody for Miami was doing anything. Lowry, because of injury, wasn't doing anything. Max Strus wasn't doing anything. Gabe Vincent wasn't doing anything. They tried going with Victor Oladipo because Tyler Hero was suffering a groin injury, groin injury, and he came in the first half, but you could see that he wasn't going to be effective, so he wasn't able to go for the Miami Heat, so they had to replace him with Victor Oladipo. So, I mean, this was a situation where it was going to be Jimmy and Bam or bust for the Miami Heat. And Miami went 5 minutes during that fourth quarter, going 0 for 9 from the field without scoring any points during that stretch. So it was just a situation where, man, if we could get to 100, we've got this game intact. 10 more points, free throw lines, 3-point field goals, jumpers, something, man. Somebody. Jason Tatum setting something up for maybe a corner three or a left corner three by an Al Horford, or maybe we get something in terms of a mismatch with Jaylen Brown and he does some things, or again, Tatum creating something for easy buckets for one of his teammates. It was all there. So Boston kept it around that 11, 13 point mark until around 2:21 left to go in the game, and that's where things started to get a little bit dicey if you were a Boston Celtics fan. Strus puts back a dunk. Then the sequence after that with 2:08 left to go, Marcus Smart misses a 28-footer, 98-89. Okay. Al Horford rebounds, the Smart miss, gets it back to him. He shoots another three, and then he misses. Hero ball, stagger, final nail in the coffin type of shooting from Marcus Smart. If you're Jason Tatum, I can go with that. If you're Marcus Smart, no, you can't. Then a minute 6 left to go. Marcus misses a 26-footer with the game 98-91 in favor of Boston. And you're like, oh, shit. Now you start watching the clock. Now you just start doing the tick, 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 and let this thing run down. And it's almost like, man, let's just get us one stop. Now, the plays that Jason Tatum were making, it was almost where I'm reading this or I'm looking at this, and I'm saying Marcus Smart misses a 3-point shot. Al Horford gets his rebound, passes it back out to Smart, who misses another 3-point attempt. Marcus Smart in the next possession misses a 3-point attempt. Jaylen Brown from the right side drives baseline, and he charges into Bam Adebayo, and he's called for the offensive foul, and the challenge is negated. Now, all of a sudden, with 52 seconds left to go, it's 98-93 with the Heat with the basketball. Now, all of a sudden, the Heat fans, many of them who had taken to the streets, are now all of a sudden making some noise. Now, all of a sudden, they're starting to believe. And after Max Strus hits that 3-point shot to make it 98-96 with 50 seconds left to play, Boston fans, are you saying, oh, shit, we're going to fucking lose this game? We are going to fucking lose this game. We had a 13-point lead, man. And we lost this game. We're going to lose this fucking game. And right now, you're yelling everything humanly possible at Marcus Smart. If you were in the arena and you had a weapon and you saw Marcus Smart get the ball and he was wide open, you would take that weapon and you would do something with it to prevent him from shooting. Because it was like, stop shooting. I don't care if you're wide open. Marcus, stop shooting. You're not hitting. You're not Steph Curry. You're not Klay Thompson. You're not Jordan Poole. You're not Jason Tatum. Stop shooting. You're not Peyton Pritchard. Stop shooting. They're leaving you wide open for a reason. Stop shooting. You're killing us. Marcus went old school Marcus. Just give me the ball. I'll take care of things. No. But Marcus kept shooting, and he kept shooting, and he kept trying to put that dagger in, and he kept trying to put that dagger in, and Miami was like, thank you so much. Yes, we can live without Jason Tatum shooting a three, believe me, especially if the alternative is Marcus Smart. If you're the Boston Celtics fan, I will have Jason Tatum take a contested right side 3-point shot with 3 guys hanging all over him more than I will Marcus Smart shooting a wide open 26, 27, or 28-footer. Stop shooting, Marcus! So I can just imagine the angst of Boston Celtics fans as they were watching Marcus Smart slowly morph into this generation's Charles Smith and John Stark. So after Strus made that 3-point play to make it make the 3-pointer to make it 59 to make it 98-96 with 50 seconds left to play, Marcus Smart, right side, goes for the layup, misses badly on the attempt. Miami gets the ball with 21.8 seconds left, and here you go. And you're thinking to yourself, these motherfuckers are going to tie this game up. And if you're a pessimist, hey man, we're talking about Boston. We're talking about Boston, Massachusetts. You know when Jimmy Butler pulled up for that 3-point shot with 16.6 seconds left to go. As a Boston Celtics fan, as a fanatic of the Boston Celtics, and you're already losing your mind and your anger is off the charts at the way that the Celtics have been executing on the offensive end, i.e. Marcus Smart, thinking that he's Jerry West and Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan all in the one. Don't tell me when Jimmy Butler rose for that 3-point shot, you were like, this motherfucker's going to make it. This motherfucker's going to make this goddamn shot. And we're going to be down by 1 with 16 seconds left to go. And we're going to have the offensive possession. And fucking Marcus Smart is going to fuck it up for us again. I know it. I feel it. Don't tell me you weren't thinking that. Or at least a little bit of you were thinking about that when Jimmy Butler rose to shoot that shot. Luckily for the Celtics, luckily for the NBA, luckily for sports fans, luckily for everybody outside of Miami, Florida, the shot missed. Horford got the rebound. Smart makes 2 free throws to make it 196. Exhale. This motherfucking game is over. You're a Boston Celtics fan, and yeah, man, it was something else. And look, people are going to be sitting there talking about should Butler have attempted a 3-point shot. Man, when you're talking about a guy who had done so much in the series like Jimmy Butler, hey, look, man, you know, I mean, if he felt it, if that was his decision, then you go for it. Maybe it was a situation. You hear all the theories that the Heat were so exhausted that if they would have played another 5 minutes or gone into overtime, it would be a situation where they were out of gas and they weren't going to win the game. So, you know, we play this when you're on the road, you go for 3 in the win. When you're at home, you go for 2 and play in overtime, and you have the crowd and you have the momentum. And you could say that maybe if the Heat forced the overtime against the Celtics, the way that the Celtics blew that game, that maybe their reserve, maybe their mental toughness and such, maybe don't overcome such a collapse in Miami, riding that wave, going from, hey, we're out of this, the season's over, to, oh my goodness, we've got another opportunity. Seasons on that, they get a little bit more adrenaline in the overtime to defeat a demoralized Boston Celtics team. But number one, just because Jimmy Butler turned down the opportunity to drive on Al Horford, there was not a 100% guarantee that he was going to make the shot. Especially if we're speaking about Jimmy Butler, and one of the reasons why he pulled up for that 3-point shot. If he was truly fatigued, then there is no guarantee that he was going to make the 2-point shot. I mean, he didn't have like a straight line to the basket. Could have been a situation where he got fouled and he misses one of 2 free throws. Could have been a situation where he missed a shot. Could have been a situation where Al Horford would have made a defensive play. We don't know. But, you know, Butler pulled up, and yeah, it was a situation where if you take a look at Butler this season, his effective field goal percentage of somewhere around 37% on shots outside of the paint, was the 3rd worst among the 217 players with at least 200 field goal attempts outside of the paint. So, yeah, the statistics and, yeah, the analytics show that that wasn't a good shot. But, again, if you're speaking about Jimmy Butler and you want to put the finishing touches on what would have been a historical run for a player in NBA history, considering the playoffs are concerned, when you follow up a 47-point game-saving performance on the road like Jimmy Butler did in Game 6, then you come back home in Game 7 and you hit the game-winning shot on a bad leg and scoring 38 points for the win. Hey, come on, man. That's the kind of stuff, well, you'll be remembered forever, man. You'll be right up there with Isaiah Thomas scoring 21 points on a twisted ankle in Game 6 in the NBA Finals. You'll be up there in 1965 with Jerry West averaged over 40 points a game after Elgin Baylor ripped up his knee and being a one-man show and leading the Lakers to the NBA championships where they lost to the Boston Celtics and Bill Russell. I mean, you're going to be put up there with that type of deal. You're going to be put up there with Jerry West in the series against the Los Angeles Lakers where he averaged over 40 points in 1969 and was named the series MVP even though the Lakers lost that series to the Boston Celtics. So you're going to be put up there right in that category if you make that if you make that three-point attempt. So, Jimmy Butler, man, go for it, man, because not only are we speaking about the opportunity, and even if he makes the shot, there's still 11 seconds left to go with Boston having the final possession, so it wasn't the game-winning, buzzer-beating shot that Jimmy Butler, the three-point shot that Jimmy Butler attempted. So there were other scenarios to go into the decision or the opinion that you're going to give on whether Jimmy Butler's decision to take a three-pointer in that situation was a good one or a bad one, or a situation where Jimmy Butler cost the Miami Heat the opportunity to win that game because he pulled up from the three-point line with 16.6 seconds left when he had a backtracking Al Horford at his mercy. A whole lot of other things are going to go into play for you before you start really questioning that shot. And I'm quite sure that if it was somebody else other than Jimmy Butler, he would have been roasted a lot more. But, I mean, how much can you complain about Jimmy Butler in that shot when, if it wasn't for him, the Miami Heat probably loses this series in 5 games. So, you don't have too much of a argument of piece to go against that or go against why he should have taken a shot or not. But situation, man, where Butler saved Marcus Smart should be on his hands and knees thanking Jimmy Butler for that decision because it saved him from being this generation's John Starks, as I mentioned before, Game 6 against Houston in the 1994 NBA Finals when Patrick Ewing was 1 game away with the Knicks leading 3-2 in the NBA Finals, and John Starks kept firing, and he kept missing, and he kept firing, and he kept missing, and he kept firing, and he kept missing, and I was yelling at the television screen along with Mikel Davis, "Stop shooting, Starks! For God fucking sakes, stop shooting!" And he kept shooting, and he kept missing, and he kept shooting, and he kept missing, and, well, we all know what happened. The New York Knicks and Patrick Ewing lost their best chance to win an NBA championship against Hakeem Olajuwon, Otis Thorpe, Vernon Maxwell, and the Houston Rockets at that time in 1994. Thank you very much, John Starks, for going 3 for 17 or 2 for 17 or some bullshit like that. And he also, you could say that Jimmy Butler saved Marcus Smart from being a little bit of John Starks of the New York Knicks, Game 6 versus Houston in the NBA Finals. Charles Smith, Game 5 against the Chicago Bulls, where, again, the game series tied 2-2. The opportunity to end the dynasty right there with the Knicks, who made all their moves that season to upend the Chicago Bulls and what would have been Michael Jordan's first retirement after he won the NBA championship against Charles Barkley and the Phoenix Suns. But Ewing makes a beautiful pass underneath to Charles Smith, who has it stripped, and he picks it back up, and then he had to block, and he picked it back up, and he had to block by the bottom of the basket, and he picked it back up, and then he had to strip again, and that was the end of that. B.J. Armstrong made the layup, and the Chicago Bulls won that game and consequently won Game 6, so thank you very much, Charles Smith, for fucking that up for Patrick Ewing. And then we have Nick Anderson, Game 1 against the Houston Rockets in the 95 NBA Finals against the Houston Rockets, or Nick Anderson playing for the Orlando Magic going up against the Houston Rockets, where with an opportunity to ice the game, he missed 2 free throws. Now, yes, all of these games might be a little bit different, but I'm speaking about bad decisions. I'm speaking about for fan bases. If the Boston Celtics would have lost that game 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now, generations upon generations would know Marcus Smart and know him for being the guy who shot the Miami Heat into the NBA Finals and shot the Boston Celtics out of the opportunity to win themselves an NBA championship. And depending upon how the history of the NBA after this goes, I mean, we could be taking a look at Marcus Smart with the all-time GOATs for being this generation's Boston Celtics team of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and a team that was regarded to be a team that could win an NBA championship. And looking back at the season, looking back at the series, everything that would have entailed, the fact that, generations of Bostonians who might not have been cognizant of what happened on Sunday in Game 7 against the Miami Heat, and those who were too young, Bostonians, and those in the New England era, when you speak about the Boston Celtics and speak about this team and speak about this season and speak about this era led by Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart could be that guy. Marcus Smart could be that guy where Bostonians say, that fucking Smart, unfucking believable. So that's my bad Boston accent, but Jimmy Butler saved him from that situation. So, yeah, man, Boston is heading on. And if you take a look at the storylines of this series between Boston and Miami, it was a situation where, hey, guess what? Boston was the better team. If you take a look, if you take a look at it, if you take a look at the 28 quarters between the Celtics and the Heat, Boston now scored Miami in 19 of those quarters. And if you speak about most of these games, I mean, Game 1, the only reason why that the Miami Heat won was because of the third quarter in which they outscored Boston 39-14 after trailing by 8 at halftime. Other than that, Boston had won the other 3 quarters. Game 2, Boston won by 25 points, led by as many as 34 in the fourth quarter. Game 3, they were outscored 39-18 and never really recovered. So that one big quarter by the Miami Heat propelled them to a good enough cushion to where a furious Celtics comeback didn't win them the game in Game 3. Game 4, they were outscored in garbage time 30-26 after Boston jumped out to a 26-4 lead, led by as many as 27 points in the second quarter, 32 points in the third quarter. So that was a situation again in Game 4 where 3 of the 4 quarters, the Celtics outscored the Heat. And then Game 5 was really the only game where the Miami Heat was that team to really Game 5 and Game 6 were much closer in terms of the quarters and who won the quarters as such. So I think Boston just showed that they're the better team. I just think Boston, interesting how they played better on the road than they did at home. If you take a look statistically, that they played better on the road than at home. That was interesting. Take a look at before Game 7 in these Eastern Conference Finals and these NBA playoffs. In Game 7, the road teams have won just 23% of the Game 7s. And there was a situation where, even though Boston had lost in Game 6, because they were 6-2 going into Game 7 as far as their record on the road during these playoffs, it was a situation where it wasn't maybe as dire as many people would have thought in terms of, a golden situation. Now Miami is clearly in the driver's seat, especially when you take a look and you kind of assessed what was left of the Miami Heat because of the devastation that they had with some of their key players because of injury. So, hey, man, the NBA Finals is now set. I want to thank the Boston Celtics for finally putting an end to the opportunity for the Miami Heat to make it to the NBA Finals. We got ourselves a really nice final between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. What is up? What is going to be the storyline? What's going to be happening? What's going to be going down? What's going to be the schedule? What are at stake for players like Jason Tatum and for Steph Curry? What's going to be at stake for the Golden State Warriors as a franchise? What does it mean moving forward for the Boston Celtics to get to the spot that they're in right now? What does it mean for them now, and what does it mean for them moving forward? I wonder, and we'll be speaking about that right after I get down and do a little boogieing.
Until you get what you need, y'all. You got to give a lot just to get what you need sometimes, y'all. Give me the bridge now. like busting loose, busting loose. Give me the bread now. I feel like busting loose now. Busting loose in the evening, busting loose can be pleasing. Talk about busting loose, y'all. Busting loose in the meantime, busting loose make you feel.
Last segment of the podcast. Last segment of the program. Wendell's World of Sports. I'm your host, Wendell Wallace. So glad that you could be with us, man. The NBA Finals, this upcoming NBA Finals, the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. The finals are officially set. If you take a look at the schedule, Game 1 is going to be happening this upcoming Thursday, June 2nd, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. They'll start in San Francisco. Game 2, Sunday, June the 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. Game 2 will be in San Francisco. Game 3, Wednesday, June 8th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think it's going to be 3 p.m. Hawaiian time. ABC is going to be televising the game. That'll be at Boston. Game 4, June 10th, 9 p.m. That's a Friday, Eastern Standard Time at 9. ABC televising the game at Boston. And then if there's going to be a need for Game 5, 6, and 7, Game 5, Monday, June 13th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. That game will be in San Francisco. Game 6, Thursday, June 16th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, ABC in Boston. Game 7, Sunday, June 19th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, ABC. That game will be in San Francisco. For those who might be new to the party, the 2-3-2 format has long gone. Now it's a 2-2-1-1-1 back to the original. So how many games this is going to go, man? There's so many details. There's so many things outside going on, moving around, moving parts that I don't think it's going to be a sweep. But I can see this going 6 games. Who's going to win the series? I don't know. Who's the finals favorite? I don't know. I mean, it's a situation where, again, these finals, these series, these playoff series, man, they take on their own little format, man, and it's hard to sometimes carry over what a team did from one series to the next, depending upon the team that they're playing, depending upon the style, depending upon the matchups. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. And you take a look at the Warriors, you take a look at their path to the NBA Finals. You take a look at the fact that they took out the Denver Nuggets in relative ease and dispatch of the Memphis Grizzlies, mainly by them kind of slacking off a little bit after their Game 3 win and really not putting the pedal to the metal or treating the Memphis Grizzlies as the contenders that they should have been. Because of that, made it a little bit more dicey for the Warriors to finally put them away in 6 games. And then where everybody was thinking about that showdown between the Warriors and the Phoenix Suns, the Dallas Mavericks said, I don't think so, and put the kibosh on that, but we're no match experience-wise and just matchup-wise and just talent-wise against the much more deeper and experienced Golden State Warriors for the Warriors to go ahead and give them the gentlemanly sweep in 5 games. So if you take a look, the Warriors not yet have been tested in these playoffs with the number 2 seed. They played, or the number 3 seed. They played the number 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies. Was Memphis more of a regular season team when you speak about them having the number 2 seed in the NBA playoffs? They played the Denver Nuggets that were coming in without Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray, a depleted Denver Nuggets team, even though they had most of the season to try to counteract the injuries to those 2 key players, yet and still going up against the Warriors proved to be no match for the 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. And then as great as Luka was for the Dallas Mavericks, and how great that he's been in the playoffs, not just for this year, but also for his entire career when he's been in the playoffs with the Dallas Mavericks, Luka is still at the learning stage and not quite ready yet to take on the responsibilities of being an NBA champion, something that a Steph Curry has already experienced, that Kevin Durant has already experienced, and LeBron James, of course, being the alpha of talking about experience in winning and leading teams to championships for his generation and the next generation. Luka at 23 is not there yet. He will be someday, and probably in the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, once he gets himself into shape and learns to play some defense and care about some of the other things as far as doing some of the intangibles. But as of right now, Luka is still a work in progress when you're speaking about a guy who can be on a level to where he's consistently having his team in a position to win championships and having the experience of knowing how to get the job done in that regard. The Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry already knows how to do that. And when you take a look at that experience and you take a look at the Boston Celtics, the fact that this is the first time in a while that they're going to be making it back to the NBA Finals, you might take a look and you might say to yourself, well, obviously then, as far as winning championships and having that experience, the Boston Celtics are not going to be up to the challenge in that regard to deal with the Golden State Warriors. And from a championship level, maybe yes. Number one, there's no team in the NBA right now that can match the Golden State Warriors when it comes to championship experience. But also, when you take a look at some of the trials and tribulations, when you speak of the experiences of the Boston Celtics in this era of the Celtics players, when you speak about the cornerstone, but the foundational piece being Jason Tatum and his running mate being Jaylen Brown and the heart and soul being Marcus Smart and such, the reacquisition of Al Horford, some of the maturation growing into the responsibility that they have on this team to be successful, such as a Robert Williams, such as a Grant Williams, the acquisition mid-season of Derek White to come in and do what he did and really be an important factor for the Boston Celtics during the series against the Miami Heat. And then you take a look at some of the experiences that they've had in the tenure that the foundation of what the Boston Celtics are all about in terms of where they are right now with Tatum, Brown, and Smart. And you speak about their battle, their 7-game battle when they were neophytes, when they were just children, when they were just kids, when they were just babies, going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James. The whole trials and tribulations of the season that they had with Kyrie Irving, and in a negative way, learning from that situation. When you speak about in the bubble and what they did to first get past the defending champion Toronto Raptors, even though Kawhi was with the Clippers, but you get past and have a tough, hard-nosed series against the Toronto Raptors before finally losing in a hard-fought series against the Miami Heat, then coming back next season and doing what they did and flaming out and needing a reboot, which meant that Udoka became the head coach and Brad Stevens moved upstairs and such. This is a team that has gone through a lot of experiences, maybe not championship experiences, but then again, if you're going to be measuring, championship experience for championship experience, there's no one in the league. There was no one in the playoffs that could have matched the Golden State Warriors in that regard. So I think the next best thing, when you take a look at the experience level in terms of who's not going to be scared or who's not going to have any trepidation when they get to the finals, and who's not going to be wide-eyed, and who's not going to take a couple of games to get used to the being in the situation or being in the environment or with the stakes being so high. I think Boston's going to be acclimated to what they're going to be doing, what they need to do, what's at stake, what's going to be going down. I think they're going to be acclimated with that very quickly. Yes, being in the final for the first time is going to take a little bit of getting used to. But for the Celtics, man, I think it's going to be midway through the first quarter. It's going to be about them playing basketball and getting the job done. And also, when you speak about from a coaching standpoint, Steve Kerr has done this plenty of times. Ime Udoka, first time, not just being in the NBA Finals, but also as a head coach. He had some experience, of course, being an assistant with the San Antonio Spurs. But, this is going to be a situation where I don't think that experience is going to play a major role like it did in the Western Conference Finals when the Warriors took care of the Dallas Mavericks. So you're speaking about, the storylines, the major storylines before the beginning of these finals, before we start getting into the nooks and crannies of the series when they actually start playing. I think the main thing, of course, is going to be, are we going to be looking at the reemergence of a dynasty or the start of a dynasty? Now, there's one thing that's been happening. There's one thing that's going on in the NBA right now is parity. There is no Kobe, Shaq, Los Angeles Lakers. There is no Heatles of LeBron, C-Webb, or LeBron, uh, um, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. There is no Golden State dynasty in their most highest level. When you're speaking about Steph and KD and Clay and Draymond really being in their prime. So moving forward, there is no super team. There is no juggernaut. So when I'm speaking about the reemergence of a dynasty, I'm thinking about more of Golden State if they win this championship to add on to the dynasty that they already had. We're just talking about them going for their fourth NBA championship since 2018 and being 4-2 in the NBA Finals and being in the NBA Finals for the sixth time in 8 seasons. I'm speaking about if the Golden State Warriors win this, their dynasty will be set in stone even more and even move them up a little bit more in terms of when you take a look at the great dynasties, considered dynasties, defined as dynasties for the in the past 21st century. When you're speaking about the Lakers since the 1999 Finals, the Lakers winning 6 championships and 8 NBA Finals, the San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan winning 5 championships and going to the Finals 6 times. When you're thinking about, again, Golden State now 6 times in the Finals in 8 years, already winning 3 championships. The Miami Heat going to 5 finals, mainly because of LeBron, D. Wade, and Bosh, but winning 2 championships in 5 NBA final appearances. The Detroit Pistons, 2 NBA finals, winning 1. Dallas, 2 NBA finals, winning 1. The Boston Celtics, 3 NBA finals now, as of right now, winning 1. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 5 NBA finals, thank you, LeBron, winning 1. And then we have Toronto and Milwaukee, 1 championship each and 1 NBA Finals each. So when you're speaking about a team like the Golden State Warriors who have won championships in 2015, 17, and 18, well, they made the NBA Finals 6 times in a season when you're speaking about 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 22, and their playoff performance, NBA Finals record being 3-2, for them to then win themselves a championship, and they can win themselves this championship and then win their 4th in 8 seasons. I think this is going to be one of the greatest. I think you have to go all the way back to the MJ Bulls, where Jordan and the Bulls won 6 championships in 8 seasons. I think that's the greatest championship stretch, especially when you're speaking about, the San Antonio Spurs won 5 NBA championships. When you speak about, well, wait a minute, Wendell, you're speaking about the Golden State Warriors, if they win this championship, will give them 4. How can that then be greater than the Los Angeles Lakers since the 21st century winning 6? How can you say that that's a greater dynasty than the San Antonio Spurs since the turn of the century winning 5? How can you say that? I can say that because when you take a look at the time elapsed between the Lakers winning their 4th championship when they remade their team. Well, they did remake their team once they won their first 3 championships in a row with Kobe and Shaq, and then the breakup of Shaq and Kobe. That's when Paul Gasol came on board a few years later, and that was a situation where they went back to the finals, lost to Boston before they won their 2 championships with Kobe beating Boston in Game 7 and then beating Orlando in 6 games or 5 games to win themselves their 4th and 5th championship. And then a couple of seasons ago with LeBron, a whole new generation of Laker players winning the Lakers their 6th championship within the 21st century. So you're speaking about almost different eras, different teams and everything else when you're speaking about the Los Angeles Lakers winning 6 championships. Same thing with the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, it was a situation where the first 2 championships were won with the twin towers of David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Very quickly, Tim Duncan, as soon as he came onto the court as a rookie for the Spurs from Wake Forest, that he came in there and said, this is going to be how we're going to do it in terms of me being the man. And David Robinson, who was ringless and at the end of his career saying, hell yeah, give this young buck the ball and let him take me to an NBA championship and I'll help when I can. And you're speaking about the style that the San Antonio Spurs won their championships, and the way that they shifted their philosophy in terms of winning a championship, mainly from being a feed it to the post, small ball, twin tower type of situation with Tim Duncan and David Robinson, and Tim Duncan doing the majority of the work, not only on the offensive end, but also anchoring the defense, to all of a sudden the way they morphed into the three-point shooting, beautiful basketball, moved the ball around, really a Golden State Warriors style of play before the Golden State Warriors really took that style to another level, with players such as Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker, along with Tim Duncan now not being the guy in terms of the responsibility that he had when he was in his younger days, and the time elapsed between the Spurs winning their fourth championship and their fifth championship. I think with the Golden State Warriors can go ahead and win their fourth championship and a smaller window than both the Lakers and the Spurs, I would say that that would be a greater feat, especially when in terms of speaking about the time between championships when you still had the core nucleus of Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson. So I would say in this situation, something that would be similar, you would probably have to go all the way back to, as I mentioned before, the 1991 to 1998 Chicago Bulls, 6 championships in 8 seasons, 2 three-peats in between Michael Jordan retiring and then coming back. So, Ben, you're talking about Steph, Klay Thompson, Draymond being the greatest trio in NBA history since Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili in terms of winning championships. So I think all of that, as far as the San Francisco Warriors, the Golden State Warriors, I think that's all on the table for them to munch and crunch on in terms of what it could be if they win themselves an NBA championship. But for the Boston Celtics winning a championship, what would it mean in an Eastern Conference where, man, you still have the Miami Heat. Now there's talk that they're going to be going after maybe a Zach LaVine, or they're going to be going after a Donovan Mitchell. Good luck on that one. But you always have Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra lurking about. You have a situation where you still have the Milwaukee Bucks, where you can make the strong argument that if it wasn't for an injury to Chris Middleton, it would have been the Milwaukee Bucks playing in the NBA championship, trying to repeat. And we could be speaking about dynasties and where this is going to go and all this type of stuff, where, that was all thwarted by the injury to Chris Middleton. But the Milwaukee Bucks surely aren't going anywhere. You have, other teams that are going to be also vying for a championship. So this is not going to be a situation, even if the Boston Celtics win this championship, that's going to elevate them to a place to where they are, no doubt about it, best in the Eastern Conference. The Brooklyn Nets, they have to settle this situation between Kyrie and the organization and such, but because of Kevin Durant, I'm expecting Kyrie and KD to come back with the Brooklyn Nets, so we'll see what that's going to happen in terms of that is concerned. We're going to see if maybe the Philadelphia 76ers, once Joel Embiid recovered from his hand surgeries that he's been having in this offseason, and James Harden, if he could commit to, just maybe one season of just balls to the wall, getting himself in shape and being the player that he once was, Philadelphia could still be a threat. So Boston winning this championship does not mean that they're going to be head and shoulders now catapulting themselves to winning championships. Unlike Golden State, where when they won their first championship in 2015, man, it was a situation where, man, these guys are going to be going and going and going, and I don't see anybody stopping them now. We just see in the beginning of something that's going to be great. I don't know, even with Tatum being 24, Jaylen Brown being 25, Marcus Smart being 28, Robert Williams being 24, all those guys are under contract, so they ain't going nowhere. Derek White is 27. Grant Williams is 23. He's still got a couple more years left before another team probably is going to snatch him up, because the Celtics will be able to pay all of those guys. But, I mean, this is a situation now where, look, Boston winning the championship, could it mean the catapult for them to be a team that could win 2 or 3 championships in 5 or 6 years? Yeah, I really think so. It's not going to be as absolute as what the last dynasty that we had, the Golden State Warriors, in terms of their dominance. But I think this could be a situation where, hey, look, man, winning this championship, especially everything that the Celtics went through. Do you realize on January 6th, the anniversary of our country being invaded by domestic terrorists, i.e. other Americans, did you realize on January 6th of 2022 that the Boston Celtics had a 25-point lead to the New York Knicks and then blew it and lost after R.J. Barrett banked in a three-point shot at the buzzer, which at the time was the Celtics' fifth straight loss and dropped them into 11th place in the Eastern Conference with a record of 18-21. Did anybody at that time think that they would go on a 30-13 run to finish the season with a second ranking in terms of the Eastern Conference is concerned? No! No one did that. No one did that. So you're speaking about now, man. Hey, look, you're speaking about from January 6th, all the way where now we're going to be speaking about them being dynasty-ish or maybe having an opportunity to win multiple championships. That's absolutely freaking remarkable, man. That is unflippin' believable. And if Boston can win this championship, I talked about the Golden State Warriors, moving throughout the playoffs to make it to the championship by defeating Denver, by defeating Memphis, and then going ahead and beating the Dallas Mavericks. Nice and everything, but man, take a look at the avenue. Take a look at the journey that the Boston Celtics had to go through to make it a championshipville. They beat the team that going into the playoffs, nobody in the Eastern Conference, they were tanking games so they would avoid playing the Brooklyn Nets. It seemed like the Celtics were the only team that'd be like, I don't give a fuck. Let's go ahead and play them. I don't give a shit. Not only did they beat them, they swept them. Beat them 3 times. And beat KD and Kyrie, owners of 3 championship rings between them. Jason Tatum outplayed both of them. Then they beat the defending NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks and the best player in the game, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and did it by winning games 6 on the road in game 7 as far as an elimination game, finally wearing out the beleaguered Milwaukee Bucks. Beat the best team record-wise in the Eastern Conference, winning game 7 on the road, the Rasputins of the NBA, the Miami Heat. So, look, man, I don't want to use the word battle-tested, but look, man, they're ready to go ahead and play Golden State. They're ready to go ahead and meet that challenge. So we're speaking about if they beat Golden State, which would be the closest team to a dynasty in the annals of sports, man, how would their legacies be put? How would their legacies be played? How would their legacies be talked about? Of course, the book would just be written, but man, it would be a wonderful first part of the book if you're speaking about. And really, if you take a look at this team, and you take a look at the trio, the foundation of the Celtics, and moving forward, this is not really the beginning of them winning a championship. This is almost like a situation where, hey man, this could be like the end of the first story, and we could be taking a look at the sequel, right? Because you have the Celtics going through all the strains and the stripes and the ups and the downs and the missed potentials and this, that, and the other, and finally getting themselves a championship win. And they beat the Golden State Warriors, the best team over the past 8, 9, 10, 15 years, and everybody's cheering and everybody's hugging and everybody's dancing and everybody's grooving and everybody's crying and everybody's high-fiving and roll the credits and, this isn't that wonderful and isn't that beautiful, and the harps and the strings and the orchestras come in to end the show. Isn't that wonderful and beautiful? But what's next? Fuck that, man. I want to see the dynasty. I want to see the sequel. What's going to be happening after this? So this could be the start of really something special in the second chapter or the sequel of their careers for some of these guys. When you speak about Tatum and you speak about Brown, how are these guys going to move forward? Are they going to morph? Are they going to grow into this generation's Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen on that level, near that level? It'll be interesting to see. The legacies, if you're speaking about the NBA Finals, Steph Curry, already known as the greatest shooter in NBA history. What happened if he wins this NBA Finals and is the MVP? That's the only thing he hasn't done, right? He's done everything else as far as professional basketball is concerned. He's won the MVP. He's 2-time MVP winner. He's won an NBA championship. He's done everything, right? Has he won a scoring title? I don't think he's won a scoring title, but that's not really his gig. He already has a moniker next to his name in terms of the greatest shooter of all time. He already has that platitude quite snug in his rug. So if he wins this NBA Finals MVP, that's it, man. Move him into the greatest guards of his generation. Move him into the second greatest player of his generation over KD. Comes down between him and KD in terms of who's the greatest player in his generation, right? or you could say Kevin Durant's generation, because you got Steph, you got KD, Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Blake Griffin, John Wall, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, Draymond Green. I would say, yeah, man. I think you would have Kevin Durant and then Steph Curry either right next to him or slightly above or below him. But you're splitting hairs here. I mean, that's a 1993 who's better looking, Selma or Hallie type of discussion that you have right there. So, I mean, I think in Finals MVP for Steph, man, you're talking about him now moving up in terms of does that move him past D Wade? When you're speaking about guards, you got Kobe, you got MJ, you got Jerry West, and normally after that you would have Dwayne Wade. And look, we can, is Steph a shooting guard? Is he a point guard? He's the guard, man. He's a guard. He's a guard that can do both, and maybe that helps him out in terms of when we're speaking about this argument. Where should Steph Curry go in terms of the greatest guards who's ever played the game? Because now we got to get away from who's the greatest point guard, who's the greatest shooting guard, who's the greatest small forward. No, man, tell me who the greatest forwards are. Tell me who the greatest center is. Tell me who the greatest guards are. Don't give me point guard. Don't give me shooting guard. So, man, where do we go here with Steph if he wins this NBA Finals and gets the MVP? Where do we go with this? Is he up there now with the greatest guards of all time? Is he up there with MJ and Kobe and Magic and Oscar and Isaiah? Is he up there with those guys? Is he at that point? I mean, has he already passed Iverson? He's already passed James Harden. He's already passed Russell Westbrook. Where does that go? Where does that put him? So it'll be interesting from that perspective to have that discussion. Where exactly is Steph Curry going to be if he wins this NBA championship? The story of Klay Thompson. Now, it's also going to depend on how well he plays during these NBA finals, but, man, the story of Klay Thompson, him coming back after 2 devastating injuries to get back and win an NBA championship, amazing. Draymond Green solidifying himself as one of the greatest role players in NBA history, one of the greatest defenders as far as, that is concerned in NBA history. That's on the line. Steve Kerr moving up very quickly if he wins himself another championship in that regard. And look, I know these guys really they can give a rat's ass about individual legacy and all that kind of stuff. They're just trying to win a basketball game. We're trying to win 1 game, and then after that we'll try to win 2 games, and then after that we'll try to win another game to make it 3, and then after that we'll try to win 4 games before the Boston Celtics do. That's the only thing that I'm worried about. Legacy and who's greater and where do I fit in here, and I'm the greatest this and I'm the top that and I'm better than this guy. I don't give a flying fuck. That's for you guys to jerk off on and talk about. I'm just up here trying to win. I'm just up here cashing checks and winning championships, man. And y'all can go ahead and talk about that other shit. Okay, that's fine, but just something that's good to talk about. Just something interesting to talk about, man. And for the Boston Celtics, their legacy, man, Jason Tatum, man, 12-time Jason Tatum, right? Finally, a situation where if Tatum wins himself this championship, is it a situation where Tatum has fulfilled his destiny? Or is his destiny so great that 1 championship is not going to be enough? For Dirk, 1 championship was enough. For Tatum, is 1 championship enough? Now, Dirk got his near the end of his prime of being a prime time franchise type of player. Tatum is just starting this journey, supposedly, allegedly. So it's a situation now where can Tatum exhale in terms of got myself a championship, and you see the teams and the obstacles that I had to get through it to do it. Does he exhale, or are we like, okay, Jason, that's cool. Win us another one. I mean, you wearing that armband, right? I mean, you got that Mamba mentality, right? I mean, what would Kobe say about 24, 48 hours after celebrating winning that championship? Okay, you won 1. Let's go ahead and get 2. That one's done. You got that one. Congratulations. Hey, way to go. Hey. When you going to get number 2? Because you got about another 12, 15 more years left to play in this game, and you're just going to settle for 1 championship at the age of 24, when you're going to be playing this game another 13, 14 years. So you're going to try to tell me the height of your career in terms of winning championships was when you were 24? I don't think so. Mama mentality, baby. Let's go. Let's get this going. If you're going to be satisfied, take that fucking armband off your wrist, off your elbow. because that's not what Kobe Bryant was all about. That's what Jason Tatum, if he follows that Mamba mentality, is not going to be about. So all of that stuff is going to be in the play. Injuries are going to be in play. The Warriors had more time to rest than the Celtics with their injuries, dealing with Robert Williams, who was visibly limping up and down the court in Game 7 against the Miami Heat. Marcus Smart, we don't know what his leg and ankle situation is going to be, and they're not going to have as much time to rest as, say, the Golden State Warriors and try to get Otto Porter back and try to get Gary Payton III back. So those in those situations. So it'll be a good series, man. It'll be a really good series, and I'm really, 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 really happy that these Miami Heat are no longer in there, man. Because to see Kyle Lowry flopping around and having the ref call a different game on every possession, and having Twitter go off and have a discussion about how bad the refs are, I'm quite sure we'll probably have that discussion regardless. But they were bad. They were bad in these playoff series, especially when Miami was playing, because it's so difficult to referee a Miami game. Just like it's difficult to referee a Giannis Antetokounmpo game or a Shaquille O'Neal game or something like that, in terms of, man, what is the foul? How many fouls we're going to call? This is ridiculous, this, that, and the other. So all good. I want to thank everybody for listening to the program. Thank you so doggone much. Thank you very much. Again, like and subscribe on my YouTube channel, and go ahead and give me them 5 stars, and subscribe, rate, review, follow, do all of those good things wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Wendell Wallace of Wendell's World of Sports, as always, especially in the times that we're having right now in this country and in this world. Please do what we can to show love and support for those. Please do what we can to show respect for everybody who is garnering, who deserves the respect. Don't be judging people by the color of their skin, or by their gender, or where they live, or how much money they make, or who they worship, or who they love, or who they marry. Can we just go ahead and just get all the folks whose hearts are filled with love and affection and peace and unity and harmony for all? And can we just get all of those people, and those who don't have it can go fucking fly into a mountain or some bullshit like that, or die a slow, painful death. And the people who are around for love and peace, regardless of the color of your skin and the content of, can we just go ahead and just build a society off of that, and then teach our children and teach the younger generation about love and happiness and treating others with respect and those type of things, so this world can move along in a harmonious vibe. We could do that, man. It would be great. Wendell Wallace, Wendell's World in Sports. Y'all be good to each other. I'll see you next time. Music.